We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
A Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin turned deadly after an SUV plowed into the crowd Sunday afternoon.
After a massive smash and grab crime last night, about 80 people wearing masks.
It never had anything to do with race. It had to do with the right to self-defense.
Fallout from the Rittenhouse case and the Rittenhouse verdict on Friday all coming up. Also, the terrible happening in Wisconsin. We'll talk about that. And smash and grabs across the country are through the roof. Lots of stuff to talk about today. This is Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. It starts right about now, and that is it. We're doing the Daily Show live. We forgot to didn't upload the clip there for the intro sequence there, so we're live. We're officially live. Thanks so much for tuning in today. It is November 22nd, year of our Lord 2021, and this is Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Got to talk about a lot of stuff today. There's the Rittenhouse verdict that came out, minutes after we got off the air on Friday. Wish the jury could have deliberated just a little bit less time and us been able to talk about it on Friday, but that was, of course, not the case. We also got to talk about the terrible tragedy in Wisconsin, driver driving through a Christmas parade. If you're not aware of that story, stay tuned. That'll be coming up next. Also, smash and grabs are through the roof. Crazy robberies happening in Chicago and then in the San Francisco area of California. 80 people robbed a Nordstrom in Walnut Creek, California. We'll talk about that later. Crime is through the roof in the United States. But we want to get into this thing first. This is the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Just play this clip really quick. So you probably have all seen it already. This is the jury finally reading the final verdict. He was not guilty on all counts, but see the reaction here and what went on in the courtroom.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read? Would you wish the jury polled? No. Okay.
So Rittenhouse obviously overcome with emotion. They're kind of collapsing when the verdict was read. Rittenhouse was not found guilty on any of the counts, including the reckless endangerment counts and the attempted murder counts, especially the murder counts for Rosenbaum and Huber. But huge news on Friday, right after we got off of this show. Nobody really knew what was going to happen. The good news, the bad news, I guess, is that we weren't able to talk about it. We weren't able to take it live, and you didn't see it live. They did the verdict right after we got off the air. The good news is, though, now we can bring you all of the fallout over the weekend, which was absolutely crazy. I've got a couple tweets, a couple statements to read you from people in the media, but also the president of the freaking United States said some ridiculous things regarding the Rittenhouse trial. Actually, you know what? We're going to get into that right now. What do you think? Shoot me in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the verdict, what went on Friday. We'll see if we can read some of those. But I want to read a statement from the president of the United States. Joe Biden put out a statement on Friday that said this. And again, this is not helping the situation. Joe Biden said, while the verdict in Kenosha will leave many Americans feeling angry and concerned, myself included, we must acknowledge the jury has spoken. So at least he's standing up for what the jury's decision is, but also he's saying he himself feels angry and concerned. Why, Mr. President? And do you think that's actually going to help people come together on this? Look, if you watched the case at all, it's pretty evidently clear that Kyle Rittenhouse was acting in self-defense. That's really not a question in many people's minds. But if you watched CNN or MSNBC, we played so many clips from them last week and throughout the trial. If you watched those garbage networks, you probably came away with the opinion that Kyle Rittenhouse is just going around shooting people in the streets. That is not the case at all. And so when the president of the United States comes out and says he feels, what did he say, angry and concerned, that's a problem. Because there's no reason to be feeling either one of those. Now, if you were watching and wanting to be honest with yourself, you would have seen this is pretty clearly self-defense. But again, if you're watching these other news networks that are completely lying about it, and we proved it here, we showed back-to-back clips of people on MSNBC saying this happened, and it's not an opinion thing. This isn't like our opinion is this and your opinion is this. No. People on NBC basically said this is a fire hydrant. Like, no, this is clearly a coffee mug. That is how absolutely outlandish the lies on some of your cable news networks were regarding the Rittenhouse case. Let's see. Kamala Harris tweeted, "Today's verdict speaks for itself. I've spent a majority of my career working to make our criminal justice system more equitable. It's clear it still has a lot of work to do." So the oh my gosh, there's so much there. There's so much there to unpack in that tweet alone. Kamala Harris, the 28% approval rating vice president of the United States, said, let's start from the end. It's clear there's more work to be done, basically saying that the jury was wrong. The system did not work here. All of the evidence stacked against the prosecution wasn't that was nothing. The video evidence that showed Kyle Rittenhouse being chased through a parking lot, the video evidence that showed him being hit in the head with a skateboard, all of that stuff, that doesn't count at all. What Kamala Harris is saying that the system still needs a lot of work. But then we have to go back to the earlier part of that tweet, which is in and of itself hilarious. Kamala Harris said she's been working the majority of her career to make our criminal justice system more equitable, which included, if you don't know this about Kamala Harris, she was the Attorney General of California before she decided to run for, actually, was she appointed? I'm not sure. I think she was appointed. I should have known this. I'm from California. No, she ran for Senate. She ran for Senate against another Democrat because California has a top two. So Democrats can run against Democrats in California. Kamala Harris was the senator. But before that, she was the Attorney General of California and pushed for insane criminal laws in California. If you don't know this, Kamala Harris is affectionately called Coppola Harris because she was completely outlandish in making the criminal justice system entirely out of whack in the state of California. So to say that she's worked her majority of her career to make the system more, quote unquote, equitable is hilarious on its face. But then again, that's the vice president of the United States who has a 28% approval rating. This tweet was from Mayor de Blasio, the world's tallest communist. I think de Blasio is like, 6'10"? I think that would effectively make him the tallest communist. I don't know. Maybe Yao Ming in China has a relative who's also a communist. I have no idea. But I believe Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York, not for long, soon to be gubernatorial candidate of New York, is in fact the world's tallest outward communist. But he tweeted this. Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum are victims. They should be alive today. The victims part I have a problem with, but they should be alive today. Yeah, maybe if the media didn't completely lie about the Jacob Blake situation in Wisconsin and the police in Wisconsin or the National Guard was able to quell the riots in Wisconsin, yeah, maybe they would be alive today. I'm not sitting here saying that they deserved a death sentence. That's not fair. So, maybe that should be the case, but it goes to show you this is why we need law and order in this country. Then he went on to say the only reason they're not is because of a violent, dangerous man chose to take a gun across state lines. I don't understand the across state lines thing, but we'll leave that there for right now and start shooting people. Holy cow. Is that what he thinks happens? Seriously, this is the mayor of the largest city in the country, and he's tweeting stuff that just is factually inaccurate. One, the whole crossing state lines thing, that was debunked like day one of the trial. Maybe not day one. But when Rittenhouse took the stand, he said, yeah, my dad lives in Kenosha. So the whole crossing state lines thing is not a thing. Remember, the media reported that Kyle Rittenhouse lives in Illinois and specifically drove there with no connection to Kenosha, whatever. None of that sort of stuff was. He had no reason to actually be there. And then he got on the stand and said, my dad lives in Kenosha. So that was debunked pretty much immediately, that the whole state lines thing was completely nonsense. But then the world's tallest communist goes on to say to call this a miscarriage of justice is an understatement. This is, again, coming from an elected mayor of the most populous city in the country. I don't know what he was watching. And he shouldn't have been watching. Realistically, the guy is, again, like I've said a couple times, the mayor of the largest city in the country. He probably has better things to do. I don't know if you know this about New York City, but crime is on the rise drastically because they don't believe in the rule of law anymore. Specific case in point, they elected Eric Adams, the former police chief in New York, to be their next mayor and go in the complete opposite direction of the world's tallest communist, Bill de Blasio. But he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be watching the trial second to second. And if you're not, you shouldn't have commentary on it. There was a lot of us that took in the trial live and saw all of the clips and saw all of the evidence and had a pretty clear understanding, regardless of whether or not you agree with the political sides that this argument had taken. You saw the evidence and you yeah, probably. I had some pretty lefty friends message me on all of my social media platforms and say, I don't agree with you on a lot of things, but this Rittenhouse thing is pretty dang clear. And we agreed. Me and my lefty friends agreed that the Rittenhouse thing was clear. And also, maybe you shouldn't have been there. Maybe it's not a great idea for a 17-year-old to go to a riot with a weapon. I think we can all at least understand that point of view. But again, Bill de Blasio, Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden, all saying things that make it pretty evidently clear that they, one, don't want to unite the country. It's all about getting people back in their camps. And two, didn't watch the thing as well. They shouldn't have. They have better things to do in their office that they hold, but weren't aware of what actually was going on in the actual trial because the evidence was overwhelming. If you haven't already, click the share button. It helps us get some more people. Click the little like button, your little emojis. I don't know, maybe you're angry, maybe you're excited, maybe you're laughing at this. Go ahead and click that little emoji button, and the little share button really helps us out. Doesn't cost you a thing, doesn't do anything, except for your liberal friends, if you have any, can see the actual truth being broadcast on Facebook Live. So if you wouldn't mind taking a chance to do that, that would really help us. We really appreciate it. I also wanted to bring this up, and this is we'll get on to more stuff after this, but I thought this was fascinating. On August 31st, Donald Trump, in a media briefing, said that the video of Kyle Rittenhouse trying to get away, that there was video shows that Kyle Rittenhouse was trying to get away from them. Let me see. Where does the actual quote start? He said Rittenhouse was trying to get away with them and felt like they violently attacked them. That quote from Donald Trump over a year and a couple months ago, was rated absolutely false by PolitiFact. Turns out, again, after the video evidence is clear and after the trial evidence is all clear and after the jury verdict is now in and clear, there was some unfair, biased reporting on the former president of the United States. Who would have thought? That's not a usual thing that happens with President Trump. Just completely gets wildly mischaracterized in the media and unfairly treated by your fact checkers on the internet. But such is this situation. The Independent said this. So The Independent is a British broadcasting, or probably British news outlet. They said this, which was ridiculous. Full story. Teenager who shot 3 black men with rifle found not guilty on all counts, as the caption read, as the first caption of its front page cover. So The Independent clearly didn't watch the case at all because they assumed that Kyle Rittenhouse, probably assumed from the media coverage about it, that Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 black men. That is not at all the case. All 3 men who were shot were white. Everybody involved in this was white. And apparently it somehow became a race thing. Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be on Tucker tonight. So I got a quick clip from this. You might have seen this already. This has been making the rounds, kind of the commercialized advertising to get there. Kyle Rittenhouse himself, so this is not at all racist. He says some things even that might irritate the right. I don't know. Watch this clip and we'll discuss on the other side.
This case has nothing to do with race. It never had anything to do with race. It had to do with the right to self-defense.
Right.
I'm not a racist person. I support the BLM movement. I support peacefully demonstrating. And I believe there needs to be change. I believe there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct, not just in my case, but in other cases. And it's just amazing to see how much a prosecutor can take advantage of somebody.
So that's Rittenhouse and a clip from Tucker Carlson tonight. He's going to be on with Tucker tonight. I think the ratings are going to be huge. It's a great get for the Carlson team over there at Fox. But he's talking about it. This has nothing to do with race, like at all whatsoever. He even says, I support the BLM movement. Now, maybe he's not quite aware of all of the intricacies of the BLM movement, the communist aspect of it. Maybe he's not aware of that. Again, the kid is 18 years old, isn't used to a life in the media spectacle. But again, making it clear that this is specifically about self-defense. Everybody involved was white. And so how that translates into racism, I'm not entirely sure. Also, here's another thing that people were kind of unaware of. I saw a lot of people, and I got a lot of messages, tweets, replies, all of this stuff over the weekend of a lot of my liberal friends and people in the liberal media saying, well, if he was black, he would have been convicted. Here's the thing. An interesting case came down from Florida the same day, on Friday, the same day as the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict was in, a verdict regarding a guy named Andrew Coffey who shot at police officers also came in. This guy was in bed in his home when there was a drug raid on his house. He did not know what was happening, obviously, as you wouldn't, grabbed his firearm and started firing at the people who he thought were intruders in his house. Those people were not intruders, they were cops. However, the jury found in this case of, again, a black defendant, they found in that case that he fired justifiably on people who he thought were invading his house. Now, he got hit with possession of a legal firearm because that's a whole different thing, but the jury acquitted a black man for attempted murder in the same way they acquitted Kyle Rittenhouse for attempted murder using the self-defense argument. So to say that, well, if he were black, he would have been immediately found guilty is not at all true, especially given the example coming out of Florida, coincidentally on the same day. Look, self-defense is a extremely important thing in the United States of America. And it's been tried and true countless times. And thankfully, at least I think in most cases, the justice system has a pretty good way of figuring out if it was actually self-defense. And in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, it actually was self-defense. And in the case of the black man in Florida, Andrew Coffey, it was also self-defense. Self-defense is a thing. If you feel like you're being attacked and you feel at risk of your life, you are allowed to use deadly force to react to the person who you think is a threat to your life. I want to get to this. We're going to put our fairness hats on. We're just have a little fairness hat on. We showed a lot of clips outside of the Kenosha courthouse earlier last week. There were some protesters there chanting some ridiculous things. And we didn't know what was going to happen. I think all of us were pretty aware that the verdict was going to come in not guilty. And up until this point, we didn't know how the left would react to that. They haven't reacted well in the past. Notice the Kenosha riots that prompted Kyle Rittenhouse to go to where he was and pretty much started this whole thing. Now, in preparation for riots, Kenosha, Wisconsin had 500 National Guardsmen outside of the courthouse and surrounding Kenosha, Wisconsin to quell any sort of riots. Now, not to let you in on any little media secret here, but the whole "it bleeds, it leads" is a true thing. Conservative media, while probably saying we don't want riots, and I actually didn't want any riots, they would have benefited in the ratings if there were riots across the country. But again, as long as we're being fair, that, to my knowledge, did not happen. Really didn't happen anywhere near that. And there were peaceful protests regarding the Rittenhouse case. And here's the thing. I am pro peaceful protests. If you want to protest anything, if you have a cause, you should do it. You should protest in your streets. You should carry signs. You should chant. You should do whatever you want to do so long as it doesn't become violent. And of course, to my knowledge, there were were there scuffles places? Yeah, there were, absolutely. There's always scuffles over everything. But we did not see the rioting that a lot of people expected. And I think that is a good thing. And because we want to be fair here, I want to show you that there were peaceful protests, big peaceful protests. This was in Brooklyn, New York, a protest through the streets regarding the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Now, they were saying some weird things, and there are things I don't agree with, and I don't understand why people would take their time to protest such a clearly evident verdict, but they did. And because it was nonviolent, because it was peaceful, I think it's only fair that we show people that. Watch this. This is a protest in Brooklyn over the weekend. So that was thousands of people protesting the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict peacefully in Brooklyn. Now, they were chanting George Floyd, which it doesn't seem relevant at all. If you were paying attention to the news, Derek Chauvin, the guy who had his knee on George Floyd's neck, was found guilty of murder. So turns out the justice system, at least in their eyes, should have worked there. And obviously, the Kyle Rittenhouse case is substantially different. One, race wasn't involved at all. And two, it was pretty clear and evident self-defense. So why they were chanting George Floyd's name, I don't know. Those cases are completely different and not alike at all. But people did take to the streets and they did protest in a peaceful way. Regardless of whether or not you believe what other people, you agree with other people, regardless of whether or not you agree with what people are protesting, they have a right to do so in a peaceful manner. Again, putting on our fairness hats here so we can talk about the fact that there weren't massive riots throughout the streets. And I think it's only fair that we mention that, especially given the fact that if there were riots, we would have been talking about them all day, every day. And so would all of your conservative media. So again, I didn't see anything, and I hope it stays that way. I genuinely hope it stays that way, and there aren't riots in the streets, and aren't businesses burning down, and aren't federal courthouses being broken into across the country. That's my opinion. That's my take on it. Again, I believe that if we were going to cover the riots that maybe would have taken place, we should also cover, or at least give some sort of heed to, the peaceful protests that happen around the country, because I believe in the right to peaceably assemble. It's a constitutional right. You always need to be allowed to do it, regardless of whether or not you believe or you agree with what those people are protesting. Enough of that. Let's get into this. This is a rough one. This is Waukesha, Wisconsin Christmas parade. I'm sure you've probably seen something about this in the media somewhere. It's all over the news. Yesterday, terrible tragedy in Wisconsin. A guy decided to drive his truck through a parade that was happening in, again, a city of Waukesha, Wisconsin. At least 5 are dead, 40 plus injured. Here's the thing. Again, this is a fairness show. I'm not going to jump to any conclusion. There's a lot of people on Twitter, online, on the internet, saying that, well, this is an hour away from Kenosha. Maybe this was retaliation for the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. There's no evidence whatsoever to prove that, at least of yet. If anything, if there's anything like that, it's all circumstantial, and there's no way to prove that. The basic reporting that's already coming out is that this guy had a pretty long criminal rap sheet, had just gotten in a fight in a park, a knife fight in a park, and was fleeing the scene. If you're the type of person that gets in a knife fight in the park, chances are you're probably drunk or high or something to that effect, and end up doing something awful. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, or even speculate that this is absolutely retaliation and the left is this and yeah. No, there's no evidence. If that evidence comes to light, he's being questioned right now by the police. But if that evidence comes to light, we'll talk about it. But as of right now, we have no idea if it is at all related to the BLM movement, like a lot of people are asserting on the internet. Again, maybe this is a show of fairness today. listen to this from CNN. This is kind of just a recap of what happened. Take a look.
A Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin turned deadly after an SUV plowed into the crowd Sunday afternoon.
There's a car going westbound pushing a freight course on a red on escape.
Watch from another angle as the red vehicle speeds down the street, barely missing a child wearing a pink coat.
Gosh,
there were a lot of screams, and we almost thought maybe it was Santa, but it was a red SUV, and it hit a lot of people.
This disturbing video shows the incident from above and the chaos after the car sped into the parade route, mowing down performers and onlookers.
I saw, maybe 3 people right in front of me.
In the city's live stream, you can see a marching band playing. The red SUV then barrels down the street. Moments later, the video shows a police officer chasing after the vehicle.
So that's it. We'll stop there. That goes on for a little bit longer. But again, it's terrible tragedy. Let's get some comments here. LaDonna said it was no accident, though. Yeah, no, it wasn't. That was clearly somebody doing that intentionally. Again, what I was saying and what we're saying here is that in order to be fair, we're not going to go down this rabbit hole of maybe there was a conspiracy theory in retaliation to the Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal. We don't know that. There's no way of knowing that as of yet, so we're not going to report it here. We're not going to speculate as if it were true. But LaDonna, thanks for the comment. Let me see. Yeah, this basically all we should be doing is praying for the people in Waukesha in the Christmas parade there. Again, they think about 5 people have been killed, 40 plus injured. Let me see if there's any other things to get through here. Also, I don't know if you've noticed this. I haven't been saying the guy's name. The guy's name is out there. I'm not going to say anything about him because I think there's a problem in the media when we're covering these mass casualty stories. It's unfortunate that they happen, and unfortunately, they seem somewhat inevitable in a country this big. There are going to be terrible stories, and I think one of the problems that the media has is posting the picture of the mugshot of the person. I see it all. It was on CNN. It was on MSNBC. It was on all of your news stations. They have this big picture mugshot of this guy who has a pretty long rap sheet already, and they're using his name and going into his history and all that sort of stuff. I happen to think, and what I think here is that if you plaster this person's face all over your TV screens and continue to use their name going forward, all you're doing is maybe not encouraging, but you're allowing people who would do this sort of thing to see, wow, I can be on TV, I can be huge news if I go and do an awful thing. So regardless of what the motivations are, unless something else changes, we will not be using this guy's name. We won't be showing his photo. That's not something that I think the media as a whole should be doing when it comes to these mass casualty events. Let me see if we can get to this comment. LaDonna also said, I agree. Our focus should be on the victims. Absolutely. Let me see if there's any more to get to. Somebody, Dylan's making a joke in this situation. Do I bring it on? Yeah, it's kind of funny. Time to ban assault SUVs. That's the whole assault rifle thing. And again, this is a terrible situation. We will not be, unless something changes and it makes sense or it matters, we won't be saying the guy's name. We won't be showing his picture on this show. And hoping and praying for the families of this terrible event that things get better. There's really nothing much more to say. We'll bring you more as it comes. I know that there's going to be more information coming out as the day goes on and the weeks go on, or the week goes on. Let me see if there's any comments. No, we're good. All right. I want to move on to this. This is not any better. Jeez, this is kind of a treacherous Monday. But did you hear about this? There were smash and grabs in several places over the country. On Friday, there was a terrible smash and grab in Chicago, Illinois, in a Louis Vuitton store. We'll play some video from that because we've got inside video on that. And then that was Friday. On Saturday, 80 plus people ransacked a Nordstrom in Walnut Creek. Now, these seem to be like somewhat localized, but there's a pretty interesting pull towards the increase of crime throughout the country. I think criminals, especially with some of these super woke DAs in San Francisco County and Los Angeles County and across the country, really, there's a culture of crime that is just scary. And this is pretty evident that it's coming from this. Listen to this report really quick, and then we'll talk about what actually happened over the weekend.
An investigation is underway in Northern California after a massive smash and grab crime last night. About 80 people wearing masks rushed into a Nordstrom's outside of San Francisco, stealing whatever they could before rushing out of the store. Officers were able to catch up to a few of them, but most got away.
So 80 plus people. Don says stealing is a crime always. Yeah, you're right, Don, but in California, it is becoming increasingly clear that you can kind of get away with whatever you want in California because the laws are ridiculous. And again, I say this, I know this is a national show, but I say this because don't let your state become California. I live in California. I've been dealing with this for the last couple decades in the political game. I've been working in politics for a long time, and I've been dealing with California politics and the nonsense that comes from your super woke politicians and DAs and statewide officials. It is a problem. Do not let your state become California. Want to play this couple clips from this smash and grab in this Nordstrom in Walnut Creek, California. There's not a lot of audio here, but you can kind of see people running around. They've got bags. I think they said about 20 different calls of people. Look at all these cars that are just parked along the street. They just stopped traffic. Everybody ran to the store, completely ransacked the store there, and just left it completely just trashed. That happened. There was 80 people that ransacked this Nordstrom. That happened on Saturday night. Friday before that, again, this is all just kind of a cultural thing. It's a cultural shift to chaos. That isn't good. It's not good. We need to be a country of law and order. And some of these examples coming from your super lefty areas, San Francisco area in California, and then Chicago in Illinois, is not good. But this happened on Friday. I want to play this clip. There's no audio in here, so I'll describe to you what's happening if you're just listening to this on the podcast. But it is absolutely ridiculous what is happening in some of our major cities. Check this out. So this is a Louis Vuitton store, and you have 14 people coming in, just bursting through. Now, this store has security. If you see the security right there, he's trying as best he can, and maybe he's in on it. I don't know. There's nobody really quite knows what's going on here yet. This is all still under investigation, but it looks like the security guard is at least trying to stop people. If I were him, I don't know if I would risk that. But this is all just part of a culture of, I'm going to play that again so you can kind of see a little bit more of that. This is all just kind of a culture of crime and violence, and that's sweeping the country. And I don't think it's good for us. You can see him grabbing a ton of different purses. I think 14 people there. They all have masks on, in part because that's like you're supposed to wear masks. Let me see. Evelyn says they're learning from watching our borders. Yeah, that's maybe it is. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's not going to end well. I don't see how this ends well with this tolerance for crime that we have across the country. Chicago police say at least 14 people forced their way into a Louis Vuitton store in Illinois last week and made off with at least $100,000 in merchandise, police said. I don't know what you do about this. Elections matter. Your votes matter. If you vote in super woke DAs that don't prosecute, a guy like Chesa Boudin in San Francisco absolutely has some pretty interesting ideas. It's absolutely crazy up there. A guy like George Gascon in LA, Los Angeles County. Again, I know this is a national show, and I know people watch from all over the country, but you need to be aware of what's going on in California because they're trying to come to wherever you live and do exactly what they're doing in these really dangerous cities. But you need to know what's going on, because crime is just on the rise around the country. I think in Chicago's on pace to set a record for homicides this year. And I don't know how it changes. Again, sorry to bring you some depressing stuff today, but it is Monday, so you should have your hard hat on, get ready to go to work, take on the week. Even though it is a short week, this is just happening. Elections matter. Basically, the bottom line here is elections matter, and you need to show support for the policies and ideas, not necessarily the party or the people, but the policies and ideas that are going to keep our country safe and keep us on the right track. Geez. Ending it on kind of a dreary note, but that's going to do it for us. Let me see if there's any comments we can get to that don't have. You guys have some great takes. I read through these. Frank says, "Be careful pointing out these facts." Let me see. Wow, I would love to read some of these ideas and takes that you guys have, because they're great. But you put so many swear words in it. If you do have any fun comments, fun takes, email us at dclive@dailycaller.com. Email us with your fun takes, any stories that we need to be covering, anything like that. You can email us dclive@dailycaller.com. We're eventually going to start a segment of the show called Mail Call and read some emails from you, the audience, and the folks out there seeing the news in real time. If there's anything we need to be talking about, anything we need to be covering, you can simply email dclive@dailycaller.com. Also, if you haven't already, would love a follow on all the social media platforms at Jobob, Jobob, any of the social media accounts. Just type in Jobob, I'll pop up. There's not many Jobobs out there, let alone brown ones. So appreciate the follow on there. We'll be right back here tomorrow. Haven't decided if we're going to do shows on Thanksgiving or Friday yet, because, Thanksgiving starts later in the afternoon. We have time to come in the morning and do something, but haven't decided if we're going to do that yet. But regardless, we'll be right back here tomorrow. If there's any more information coming out of the Wisconsin tragedy in that Christmas parade, we'll bring it to you. Also, any more fallout from the Rittenhouse case. Geez, and we didn't even hint on Dr. Fauci on the Sunday talk shows saying some ridiculous things, as he seemingly always does. We didn't talk about the supply chain that is massively important, or on 60 Minutes last week. We didn't even get to that last week. There's so many things happening. You need to stay tuned. You need to just make sure you're watching each and every day at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We'll be right back here tomorrow with anything and everything that is meaningful and important in your news of the day. We'll see you then. God bless America.